Ready.
Hi, I'm Richard Carlton for DryPractice.com. This is a video response for all the dozens of phone calls and emails Front Sight receives each week from men who are concerned about bringing their wives, their girlfriends, and their daughters to Front Sight's 4-day defensive handgun course. The concern is that they've taken their spouse or their sister or their daughter to the gun store or maybe out shooting, and they've had a hard time manipulating the slide of a semi-automatic handgun. And if they're having a hard time doing that, how could they possibly complete a 4-day defensive handgun course at Front Sight? And that's a very good question. In truth, it's easy for women to manipulate semi-automatic handguns, from small-size weapons to full-size automatics. They just need to be shown the proper techniques. Let me show you here. First off, I have a Glock 21. This is a full-size .45 semi-automatic. I'm going to ensure that it is unloaded. I'm going to lock the slide back. I'm going to visually inspect the chamber and physically inspect the chamber. I'm also going to check the magazine well to make sure I have no magazines in the weapon. I'm going to release the slide forward. The weapon's completely unloaded. One of the primary ways that Front Sight teaches you to do a chamber check is for you to take your support side hand, take your thumb and forefingers, drift it underneath the frame of the weapon, grabbing the slide, pulling the slide back. Allows you to visually inspect the chamber. If necessary, you can insert a finger from your firing side hand to physically inspect the chamber for a low light chamber check. Then you can release the slide and you can resume a firing grip. Now that takes a lot of physical strength, and this is where things can get interesting for women. Now here's the same weapon with a tactical light. Now to be completely fair, at this point, it's hard for me to even get a good grip on this weapon to do a chamber check, because the tactical light blocks access for me to get a good grip. And so at this point, I personally need an alternate way of chamber checking this weapon as well. Now there are two good alternate chamber check techniques. The first way is to roll the weapon over level with the ground with the ejection port up. Take your support side hand between your thumb and your forefingers, take the web of your hand, insert onto the top of your slide. Using your firing side grip to drive the weapon forward, you're going to push the weapon forward, and bringing that grip back, force that chamber open. Now, that's a good way for chamber checking, but even that way for some people is going to be difficult. Now for my kids when they were younger, and for my wife, they prefer a third way of chamber checking, which is as follows. You're going to release the weapon with your support side hand and take the palm of it and apply it along the serrations along the rear of the slide of the weapon. Wrap the palm around the rear of the weapon, tilt the weapon back just a bit, and pull the slide back enough so you can see in the ejection port to see if there's any brass in the weapon. Then release the slide forward. Now make sure the slide goes all the way forward back into battery, which means the slide's all the way forward and the weapon's back into a firing condition. Now one of the tips for doing this last chamber check technique is to make sure that your arms are not actually out here loose, but you bring them back and you anchor your elbows, push them up against your body. That way you're in close, it gives you extra leverage. So then as I tilt the weapon up and I break my support side hand, things are close here, it gives me extra leverage to pull the weapon back, and so I can get a good view inside the weapon. Now keep in mind, if I break this slide back too far and there's a magazine in the weapon, I'm going to end up loading the weapon. Now the weapon's going to be hot. If my intent was to not load the weapon and there was a magazine in there, then I've loaded it. That could be a problem. Now the good news is that Front Sight teaches all three of these techniques to their students in their defensive handgun classes. But you need to explain this to your wives, your girlfriends, and your daughters in advance, that they don't have to worry about not being able to manipulate these weapons. So let's go ahead and take a look at these chamber check techniques from the other side. So Front Sight's standard chamber check technique, thumb and forefingers out underneath the frame on the slide, you drift your trigger finger out and you pull the slide back, visually inspect the chamber for any ammunition. release the slide forward, back to a firing grip. The first alternate chamber check technique is you're going to roll the weapon on its side with the ejection port up. You're going to take your thumb and forefingers of your support side hand on the web. You're going to jam it onto the slide. You're going to drive the weapon forward and you're going to pull the slide back. That allows you to inspect the weapon. The third and last chamber check technique, take your support side hand, take your palm, wrap it around the serrations on the aft portion of the slide, tilt the weapon back a bit, pull back enough to inspect the chamber for brass, release the slide forward, make sure the slide's back forward into battery, firing grip back on the weapon. Alright, to prove my point about this, I've gone ahead and borrowed my wife. I've given her my Glock 21 and she's going to use her preferred alternate method for chamber checking. So go ahead. As you can see, it's not a problem. In case some of you thought having my 5'5" petite wife do the chamber check was cheating, I'm going to have my 12-year-old petite daughter give it a try. Say hi, Sarah.
Hi.
All right, Sarah, go ahead and do a chamber check with our Model 21 full-size Glock 45. Okay, weapon clear?
Yes, sir.
Are you ready to go to front sight?
Yes.
Was it easy?
Easy.
All right. So is there any reason that any woman couldn't clear that weapon?
No, sir.
All right. Now keep in mind, these techniques are covered in Front Sight's dry practice manual on pages 27 and 101. Also, if you want to know more about these techniques, feel free to sign up for one of Front Sight's ambassador training classes. Front Sight calls this their at-home training program. For more information about the at-home training program, visit www.frontsight.com @home training.